Well, it is Friday, the 8th of May, and it is Family Fun Week, and today is your furry friend day. Stuffed animal, maybe you've got a pet. I want to show you a picture of one of our furry critters. His name is Figaro, and Figaro is not a house cat. Figaro is our yard cat. And since Figaro has come to be a part of our family, there are no rodent species that come around our doors. There's a pasture right behind us. They still don't come. Don't turn your back on Figaro. The only time he's cuddly is when you feed him. The rest of the time, that is one tough cat. So, that's my boy Figgy. Lessons from the life of Joseph. Chapter 37, 1 through 11, jealousy established. Chapter 37, 12 through 36, Joseph is sold. How do you make this stuff up? 39, 1 through 23, Joseph excels in Egypt. And then in chapter 40, verses 1 through 23, Joseph interprets dreams. Now, Joseph accurately interprets high-ranking Egyptians' dreams. He asked the cupbearer, you remember he judged his dream favorably, he asked the cupbearer to remember him. So now we pick up the story in chapter 41, verses 1 through 49. It's a mouthful. Chapter 41, verses 1 through 49. But it's a great, compelling story. So stop the recording, spend some time reading this. You don't want to miss this story. So stop the recording and read this. 2 years went by. You know how long 2 years are? When you've done something and then you're waiting for whatever it is to come in the mail and it never comes. He's in prison. He's in prison with a rap sheet that means he is never getting out. You remember he was sold when he was 17. He is now 30 years of age. 13 years have gone by. Now, meanwhile, Pharaoh, that's the Egyptian way of calling your king, Pharaoh. Pharaoh is the king of the Egyptians. All of a sudden, the Pharaoh has dreams. He has 2 dreams. One dream is, well, there's 7 fat cows, 7 gaunt cows eat the 7 fat cows. Dream number 2, you've got 7 ears that are swallowed up by 7 scorched ears. Nobody in Pharaoh's household can interpret the dream. Then the cupbearer. He's been holding on to this information. He remembers Joseph interpreted his dream, so now he uses the info for his advancement. Very strategic. People like insider info for their own advancement. Pharaoh calls for Joseph, so they get him cleaned up. Pharaoh tells Joseph his 2 dreams. Well, you got 7 healthy things were swallowed up by 7 unhealthy things. Joseph hears both dreams. He says basically the dreams are one and the same. It's easy. You're going to have 7 years of abundance. Those 7 years of abundance will be followed by 7 years of famine. And Joseph, again, he holds no grudges towards God. He walks with God and God's favor is upon him, even in prison. And Joseph cites God as the one who's responsible to bring this about. His wisdom comes out because uninvited, Joseph suggests, well, you know what, Pharaoh, you might want to prepare during abundance for the time of famine. You can do this by storing up grain so that you will have food when things get tough. Pharaoh hears the information, goes, Joseph, great idea. You are in charge. In one moment of time, Joseph goes from prison to the palace. He went from a lifetime sentence to being arguably the most powerful person in the world because he will have the keys to the grain elevators. When the whole world is starving, he will have abundance to distribute. Now, notice the contrast in character. Notice the contrast between the cupbearer and Joseph. The cupbearer uses insider info for his own advantage, whereas Joseph used insider information for the greater good of others. He didn't know that he was going to be advanced in the position when he gave it. For 13 years, he's been behind bars of some shape or size. You don't get to the palace if you are not faithful in the prison. For 13 years, he's been faithful. And now, all of a sudden, everything falls into place. You know, God was training him for such a time as this. You remember back when he was 17, he was a little bit arrogant. He was a little bit cocky. He would share his dreams and he would say to his brothers, "You guys are going to bow down to me." Well, God has groomed out of him his arrogance. During this time, God has groomed in him the knowledge of, I've got to die to myself. It's not about me. Joseph has learned to get over the injustices. He's not holding grudges. He's unoffendable. And through all of this, Joseph keeps his eye on the bigger story. Because in God, there's always a bigger story. Even if that bigger story isn't until eternity, there is always a bigger story. You know, God is always, always grooming us for ministry ahead. God allows us to go through what we go through today so that we can minister to someone tomorrow. Please understand, the corona is the smaller story. It's not the bigger story. What he's grooming in us during this coronavirus, during this lockdown, well, really is an incubation period, because he's shaping your character. He's forming something in you so that you will have something to give in the days ahead. So the great question to ask is, what is the ministry ahead of you that God could be opening up? Maybe for a lot of us, he hasn't revealed that in its totality yet. That's why ask him. Spend some time going, God, what is it that you want me to do as a result of what you're teaching me during this time? God isn't wasting time. God never wastes time. God doesn't waste pain. And so God is orchestrating something in you during this period of quarantine. He's incubating something in you so that you will be able to minister to somebody down the road. So don't walk around kind of going, "Oh, woe is me." This is not a woe is me time. This is a thank you, God, time for what he's doing in you so that he can use you to minister to others down the road. What a great privilege. So be asking God, God, what is it you want me to do when we come out of this time? Have a great weekend. Can't wait to see you on Sunday. And it is a good day. So celebrate what God is doing in and through you. We'll see you next week.